Welcome to the Let's Talk Property with MFS podcast. MFS are a bridging loan and buy-to-let mortgage provider and not a financial advisors. The opinions expressed in this episode are personal to the host and guest and may not reflect the views of MFS. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Let's Talk Property with MFS podcast with me, your host, Mark Hutchings. This is the podcast where we cover all things property, and today I'm very pleased to announce I have my dear friend Kam Dovedi back in to provide us with some updates for next year and let us know how we've got on next year. So, busy year for you guys so far. How have you found the market?
Yeah, it's been an active year, to be fair.
Yeah.
And the market, as I'm sure everyone's aware, has changed quite a bit.
Yep.
It's constantly adapting, as we're all aware. And there's definitely been some adapting this year, that's for sure.
More so than usual, I'd say.
Absolutely.
I bet you should, obviously you deal with your own investments. You also deal with people that are starting out on their property journey as well. What sort of stuff are people generally, tactics or things are people generally tending to use at the moment, or what are you advising people best routes?
Yeah, so, we're investing in property, residential and commercial. And because of this, one of our companies is help people upskill as well.
Yeah.
You're quite right. And new people, not new to life though.
Yeah.
Might be new to property, and also got a number of experienced people. To be fair, many of them are looking to sell until they meet us and they go, actually, I didn't think of that. That's a really great idea. And actually, I'll keep on what I've got because they work out ways of actually doing that. So it's a bit of a mixed bag, really. That part I've been doing for the best part of a decade now.
Wow.
I've trained over 200,000 people.
Wow.
And helped them create financial freedoms. However, foremost, we invested developers. And because we invested developers, are trained people on how to actually get stuff done properly.
Are you finding a lot of people have been a bit, not disillusioned with the market, but slightly more scared of entering it? And then once they've spoken to you and see what you're actively doing, because I've known you for a long amount of time, and I know no matter what the market conditions are, you're always investing. You just might change your strategy slightly or anything else. Is there a particular strategy in 2023 that you sort of ran or stuck with, or have you been using multiples with high interest rates and everything that's been going on recently?
Yeah, to be fair, the strategies don't really change too much. There's always a new version of them. So the key strategies we'll be using are buy-to-lets. What we find with buy-to-lets are that there's more portfolios coming on the market as well.
Yeah.
Many people call buy-to-lets a vanilla strategy. There's nothing vanilla about buy-to-let. We can do it properly. It's tutti frutti. It's my little bad joke there, right?
I like it.
So, buy-to-lets don't credit because what people focus on is the actual capital itself. However, what we focus on at Premier, we actually focus on the percentages.
Yeah.
So, we'll buy lovely little deals, 50K, 60K, 70K, 80K. We'll pick up portfolios, 6, 7, 8 properties, that kind of thing. Usually, it's never really a whole portfolio. It's normally the back end of the portfolio.
Yeah.
Where we can have most value. So, whether someone's buying one, we'll pick up ones as well. That's fine. People buy ones or small portfolios or larger portfolios. Buy-to-let works really well. HMOs, house multiple occupancy, that's been working even better than previous years.
Well, that's always been a popular one for you, isn't it?
It's popular even more so because, of course, we're all aware of the cost of living crisis. How many times have you heard that, right? Listen, I'm sure heard of cost of living crisis every 5 minutes. Cost of living crisis. The point is you've got to do something about it, of course.
Yeah.
So HMOs work really well for that because people are liking smaller spaces because they can afford them.
Yeah.
That's working. Also, the stress test. You're in the finance world, of course.
Certainly helps. We're seeing a lot more people either convert properties into HMOs or solely using the HMO strategy. So yeah, it's something that we currently see a lot of at the moment.
And financing makes the financing happen, doesn't it? Because you get higher loan to values.
Yeah.
So that's a great strategy. Also, to answer your question, we're doing commercials to residential as well. Nothing too massive, nothing too small either. So we're in the sort of region of around 500,000 to 1 million is our sweet spot. Why do I say that? Because again, what many people do is, how can I say it politely? They do stupid things.
Overstretch.
So the mistake that many investors make is they'll start with something, get good at it, get really good at it, and then get extremely overconfident, and then they'll go and do something completely with a couple of extra zeros on it.
Yeah.
And then they lose their shirt. Unfortunately,
so they successfully buy something, refurb it, and sell it, and then all of a sudden they try to build 15 grand up like a flat around the corner.
Yeah, and it's not their fault, right? Because obviously they haven't seen the other side of it. I'll be in moments where my hands are shaking and my legs are shaking. I can't stop them. And trust me, that's not funny. You don't want to be in these problems. So what I realised, maybe I'm getting a bit older, I don't know, right? Sure, not
Certainly wiser.
Sure, I'm getting wiser. I'm getting wiser. A little bit older. Is that actually scale doesn't mean necessarily doing the massive thing.
No.
From my point of view, scale is doing what you're doing effectively, stretching outside of your comfort zone. Yes, doing more, something that your brain slightly doesn't allow you to do. Your brain, where your brain says, "Oh, that's just a bit too much, isn't it?" That's where you want to be.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a stretch. So that's scale. That's what we're doing. That's where the numbers come from.
So you obviously mentioned portfolio landlords. A lot of these guys, obviously it's a big thing that everyone's talking about at the moment. There's a mass exodus of buy-to-let investors leaving the market, everything else. Personally, a lot of these guys in my eyes are accidental landlords, but obviously the portfolio landlords, are they sort of, people that either sort of nearing the end of their career and don't fancy going through another property cycle?
Yeah, so what we're finding is that the people that are selling are, first of all, people that are kind of having a go. So they didn't really learn how to do it properly. To be honest, it's not rocket science. If I can do it, anyone can do it. I'm from a very poor background, and I've learned how to do this. So the learning, if you can get someone where you can learn from correctly how to do it, someone who's already doing it, that really helps. So, it can be learned. So people are having a go. That has now changed. It's more about professionalizing. So that's key for 2023 and 2024 moving forward. Also, it's people with what we find that are selling up are people that are tired landlords. I do not know why they're tired, because if they were doing it correctly, properly, they wouldn't be tired anymore. There are people in the senior ages where they're looking to sell off, but then again, they could still keep those portfolios. They could hold them in various different structures.
Yeah.
And they could still have a retirement and they'll have the money coming in. So they could have their cake and eat it, is what I'm saying, if they wanted to. I think the key really comes back to the upskilling. People don't tend to upskill. They're listening to the media out there. I mean, there's so many opportunities that are working in an investor's favor right now in property. So legislation, first of all, there's all this legislation that's coming out, but actually when you really look into the depth of it, it's actually on the favor of the landlord, much of it. Makes a change. when you assess it correctly, and also there's a lot of U-turns which the government are doing, and listeners will listen to this will find that, and if they listen to this 6 months later, they'll find there'll be even more U-turns, which are actually in the favor of the investor. The key, the private rental sector is needed.
Yes.
No matter what legislation there is, interest rates have gone up. However, they're very workable interest rates. They're not high interest rates. When I started as an accidental landlord, the interest rates were 17.5%. What we had over the last decade has just been a dream. It hasn't been reality. So what we've got right now is actually a reality check. When you look at it, if you track it over 100 years, the interest rates are on par. Interest rates tend to fluctuate, as you're aware, between sort of 4 to 6% actual interest rates that you're getting from lenders.
Yeah. And
that's a track over 100 years. That's where we are right now. So it's not high interest rates.
No.
These are very workable interest rates. And you just got to work your numbers and buy the right assets where those numbers work for you. That's all it is.
I think a lot of it is the mindset for the investor as well. Where we are rate-wise is pretty much, obviously inflation has been dropping slightly, but quite nicely recently. Be interested to see how that affects things moving forward. But then, you've got a lot of people which have been, like we're saying, spoiled with the low interest rates, and now you're thinking, they can't do deals. But there's a lot of people like yourself that say, right, it's a level playing field now. It's normal. Let's still make deals work and let's go. And then obviously it leads me nicely on to the fact that we've got the autumn budget coming up. Rishi talking about some potential tax cuts and everything else. What's difficult is to predict the future. What do you reckon they're going to be? What sort of things do you reckon they're going to be discussed in the budget that can potentially benefit?
Well, they might be listening to this before the budget. They might be listening to it after the budget. However, the key is, when it comes to property, one of the things I love about property is that taxes actually becomes a choice according to HMRC's guidelines. Now, of course, you got to get good tax advice.
Yeah.
I'm not giving any tax advice, and I don't know if you are. So we're not giving any tax advice. However, there are so many aspects of tax that you can actually use to your advantage. In fact, over my last 30 years of investing in property, I've been searching for the correct tax advice. There's lots of different views on taxes. There's loads of different scenarios, and I've learned from the best. I've also spent a good 6 figures of my time on tax advice as well. I then apply it to myself, my family's portfolio, and now I share it with my students. as well on what they can choose to do. Of course, I always say make sure you get tax advice.
Yeah.
However, as the entrepreneur, you've got to be the person who actually calls the shots.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, they're wages, aren't they?
Yep.
I don't know if any listener here had the experience where they've gone to the accountant and said, "Can I do this? Is this possible?" And they say, "Yes, it is." Well, why didn't you tell me 3 years ago then? And if you're like me, you understand that actually the buck stops with you. And you have to be in the conversation. You don't need to be a tax advisor. However, you need to be professional enough, competent enough to actually understand what can't be done as an entrepreneur. Because let's be honest, that's really what you are. The new landlord in 2023, 24, 25 going forward is somebody who's a business person.
Yeah.
Don't even think of yourself as a landlord. Think of yourself as a business person. So you've got to be able to come along to your tax advisor, say, right, okay, what advice can you give me? How about this? How about that? What can actually work? So over the last 30 years, what I've done is actually create a tax planning system.
Right.
I'm not as a tax advisor, as an investor. And there are actually 189 specific tax methods of actually reducing your taxation when it comes to property. Not PAYE, by the way. I have no idea what you can do PAYE, because you pay the NI, you pay the tax.
Yeah.
And that's how it is. In property, what I love about property is it's the other way around. You actually decide how much tax you want to pay, always according to HMRC guidelines, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's 189 ways that we found that you can apply these. So shall I share a couple for you?
Yeah, please do.
So one of the ones that we use is repair, replace, or renewing personal aids.
Funny enough, I've actually listened to you in quite depth talk about and explain this. So
because the big hoo-ha is out there is that can't minimize your tax. You end up paying more tax if you've got property in personal name, residential property in personal name. The truth is you got to really assess what HMRC is saying to you. So is the expense a capital expense or is it a revenue expense? If it's a capital expense, yes, quite right, you cannot claim that.
Yeah.
However, if it's a revenue expense, you can claim it. So if you're doing a refurbishment, for example, that cannot be claimed, as I understand it. And if it's a revenue expense, which is a repair, replace, and renew, it can be expensed. What is the difference actually practically in terms of what you're doing? In many cases, it's exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
You're replacing a kitchen or you're refurbishing a kitchen, and you might think, well, hang on a minute, is that just a vocabulary? Well, we've got to go by what HMRC says. And if you're doing a repair, replace, and renew, then that can be expensed. Now, that doesn't work if someone is an investor who's not investing anymore and they just got what they've got and that's fine. It will not work then. This works for active investors.
Constantly buying and constantly refurbing.
Yeah, buying, and the properties need work on them, so you bring them back into the community. So that kind of works really well. This is a short version, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I've heard you long version as well.
Yeah. So there's that. That's really good. Limited companies are brilliant.
Yeah.
Limited company, intercompany structures. I mean, there's so much that you can actually run through a company. And then, of course, tax group structures are very, very useful. Where you can buy, sell, still keep the property, pay no stamp duty, and decide how much tax you want to pay. You should pay some tax.
Yeah.
And you should always, we're always making sure that we're on the right side of HMRC guidelines. It's absolutely important. We don't look at these various schemes that are out there.
Yeah.
And
I suppose this is where having a broad knowledge of the market, to be keeping yourself updated with regulatory changes, whether it be tax, legal, or whatever it may be. But we're getting close to the end of 2023 now. We always have account predictions. I know it's difficult for you to predict, but what sort of trends do you reckon we're going to see next year from your informed property investor?
This is the thing about these predictions. I don't know why people don't have the guts to actually give predictions, because
just in case they're wrong.
As an investor, and I mean, you know this better than anyone because you're in the finance world. When they say that past performance can't predict the future, I don't know why they say that, because actually it's very predictable as far as I'm concerned, and it comes around on a regular basis. That's my view. So far, it's been correct. Touch wood. Yeah. These predictions aren't predictions that are put the finger in the air kind of predictions. There's a lot of data analysis behind these predictions.
And obviously 30 years experience on your part.
Yeah, so 30 years experience. And also you've got to be careful of that, though. People saying 30 years experience, because sometimes that can be 1 year experience 30 times round.
It's true.
So, I can have an heart say it definitely is 30 years experience because, we're all the time, I'm constantly learning. I'm not going to be that fool who thinks he knows it all. That's for sure. And I don't know it all.
I think that's when people come unstuck, is when you become a bit, not cocksure, but you sort of have to do a few good deals, but you're only as good as your last deal, and one deal can completely wipe out all the progress you made with the other stuff. I've seen it happen to people, no doubt. You have as well. So, learning's always learning.
But I'm always learning. I'm humble enough to say that, always learning.
So you can teach a lot of new tricks.
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
That's my prediction then.
Please, go on.
Yeah. Okay, so predictions for... We bring it from cases back in a year's time, 2 years' time, and see what happens.
Well, look, we'll have you back again this time next year, and we'll do it. We'll do it.
Yeah. So
you're right.
That's it. So my view is, of course, I'm applying this to our own portfolio. So my view is, 23, 24, the interest rates, they'll typically be within the band of 4 to 6%.
Yeah.
They might go up a little bit, they might go down a little bit, but they'll be kind of in that band. When the new government comes in, whatever government they are, I think we know which government it's going to be, but let's see. When the new government come in, as long as their policies are reasonable, it will still stay within the 4 to 6. However, if they come up with, let's just say, creative policies or something slightly different than the world are actually expecting, because remember, it's not just the Bank of England, it's the global community that are looking at the finance side of things, the economy for the UK. If they come out with some very interesting strategy, let's just say, we might find it coming out of the 6% and going way out of that. If the policies are slightly different, then we might find it falling out of that. But I would say for the next year and a half, 2 years, we're in that 4 to 6% in terms of interest rates. In terms of what's happening with people with their portfolios, there's over 1.7 million people coming off of 5-year fixes in 2024. And we haven't really experienced the pain of that, to be fair, because many people that got used to their 2-3% that they borrowed at over 5 years, and now they're coming into variable rates, and better than anyone, they're coming into variable rates of 8, 9, and even 10% type of interest rates. And because unfortunately, they may have learned what to do, they may not have learned what to do. Probably they haven't.
It depends how highly geared their portfolio is, because a lot of buy-to-let landlords, let's face it, you're going to be geared, because as soon as you get a decent amount of equity in it, you will then, take that equity, put it into a new property. So I think you're 100% right. We haven't really seen what's going to be happening, because there's still an unbelievable amount of people which still need to come off. They've been sitting pretty while everyone else has been panicking. They've been sitting pretty now, but they're people that should be planning their next move way in advance for next year.
It's quite sad, really, because they tend to be in a place where they've got the variable rate. Many of the lenders don't actually want to do a product switch on to another product. They don't want to let them. When they go to refinance somewhere else, they're getting a lower loan-to value. So they've got this amount of money that they've got to really come up with to either pay that down, or if they've got more than one property they can't pay, then they're kind of stuck with that variable rate. So it's quite a, sadly quite a painful situation for people. However, this is where we are.
It's the world.
It's where it is, and there's a lot of that coming up. And unfortunately, what I hear on the grapevine, there are a lot of repossessions that are being held back. They're coming through now. Corporate sales are coming through now, and there's going to be even more, unfortunately, in 2024 and 2025. There's a whole tsunami that's being held back right now. And it is what it is, as you say, so there's going to be, comes drastic situations there, a lot of motivation. And at the same time, on the other side, as an active investor, there's going to be a lot of opportunities to be had as well.
So there's been a lot of talks. We'll quickly finish on this. The fact that there's going to be a lot of, we've been talking about Section 21, EPC ratings. I think EPC ratings, everyone's going to property investors going to put to the back of their mind for now. You see much difference in changes with Section 21 and everything else that's been talked about?
Well, yeah, to be fair, Section 21, the non-fault eviction.
Yeah.
If you're doing this business properly, first of all, you don't want to move back into that property, because it's not aspirational property, it's a functional property. It's a home for somebody. How is not an aspirational property if you're doing it properly?
Yeah.
Secondly, why the heck would you want to evict your paying customer? Yeah, so, I'm not going to do that. If everyone's doing this properly is professional, then I'm going to do that. So these non-fault eviction scenarios don't really fall on professional people. No. And by the way, when I say professional, I don't mean you need to have 30 years experience. If you do, good for you. However, you could be brand new to property, you can still professionalise, get it right the first time.
Running a business properly.
Yeah, like, and if you don't know what to do, learn with someone who does know what to do, if you can find them.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So that's one we'll know.
Okay.
EPCs, they're not we need an EPC, but it no longer has to be a C, as you told that.
Yeah.
Private rental sector, I mean, you only got to ask any landlord, anyone who's got properties, you get so many tenants waiting upon a property, wanting to get that property.
Yeah.
In London, in our London properties, on the last one was 6 weeks ago, we had over 20 tenants in 48 hours.
Wow.
Who wanted to get one of that property. In our areas outside of London, because we have 5 specific areas. 5's too many, by the way. You only really need one, really. But then if you're training people, you need to know what
you need to show them a bit what's going on, right?
So these are sometimes they feel like different countries.
Yes.
And in these areas, again, like we get 10 vetted sort of tenants for every one property. So there's a lot of demand. Is the point.
I think we're speaking to a lot of people that they're currently seeing that. So, right. So there you have it, guys. Lots to talk about next year. Some interesting stuff coming up. Thank you again for listening, and thank you very much for Kam for joining me again. Obviously, can you let the listeners know where best to find you?
Yeah, you can email me at kam@premierproperty.co.uk. If you go on the socials, it's Premier Property or Kam. You can find us that way.
Brilliant. Well, look, thanks again for coming on, and I look forward to working with you next year again as well.
Absolutely.
Brilliant.
Thanks, Mike.
Cheers, mate. Just like to say thank you for tuning in to Let's Talk Property with MFS today. Please don't forget to comment and subscribe, and don't miss out on any of our future episodes. If you want to learn more about market financial solutions and what we do, please do visit www.mfsuk.com.